Good morning, Carnation Crafters, and welcome to Carnation Crafts. We are live in the Carnation Crafts studio. My name is Carla Bagshaw, and I am the brand ambassador for Carnation. Huge apologies for the state of me this morning. My youngest son has picked up the strep A virus thing that's going around, and he's happily passed it on to me. So we're a little bit poorly this morning, but we are here to craft, and today is composition day for the Glamour of Winter. For those of you who've yet to see the Glamour of Winter, it is absolutely stunning. It is stunning. You can get the whole collection for this from the Carnation Crafts website. So you have to go to www.carnationcrafts.co.uk and you'll find everything on the website. However, if you put in the code 221201 into the website, it will bring up this full collection for you. So you've got the beautiful frosted oak card shape. But more importantly, you've got the pop-up mechanism, and it is incredible. It's going to change the way you craft. It's going to make all of your cards in the future have the potential for that pop-up inside, which is amazing. I'm going to go through the boards with you and take you through the whole thing. But just to do the housekeeping, which is once again to tell you this is 221201, the Glamour of Winter collection. The show price is $124.99 at the moment. You can use the code GOWCC10 and that's going to give you a 10% discount on this collection, which is always awesome to have. It will be free P&P in the UK, which is also nice to know as well. If you're joining us from the States, it will be $4.95 for your P&P. If you want to add the perfect papers, that will take it up to $14.95 for your shipping and handling. And if you're joining us from elsewhere, just have a word with Carnation and they will let you know about all of the shipping and handling and how that works. So yes, this is a stunning collection. I will say while you're there, if you're getting the Glamour of Winter, please do pop in the perfect papers as well, because they are stunning with this collection. We're going to have a good look at those this morning. I am going to cut the pop-up for you so you can see it in action and see how that all works. So I guess some of you might have it this morning. Your perfect papers, by the way, are 221211. That's not easy for me to say this morning, Taz.
221211.
Are you making jingles up?
Yeah.
Are you a little jingly bear this morning? Miss Taz is a little jingly bear. Thank you everybody who's saying get well soon. I feel a little bit kind of out of it. I'm just going to let you know I feel a little bit weird, but it'll be all okay. We hope. I've had some tablets before we came on air, so I'm hoping it all calms down. Just my luck. And I was the very terrible mother who was, you know, the Yorkshire mum yesterday saying to Abraham, you'll be fine, just go to school. And off he went. And yes, he's very, very poorly, bless him. So we are here anyway. So we've got this beautiful collection. Let's have a look at the boards, run through them, and then see what we can make with them. This is the beautiful frosted oak leaf shape. Please, 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 when you do cut this, use Cut Tidy if you've got it at home. I'm just looking for mine here. Might be somewhere, because it's going to make your life so much easier. I've got it here. Just one second. This is what Cut Tidy looks like. Comes in a packet like this. I'm using the A5. They do an A4 one as well. And you open it up. You won't be able to see it really well because it's see-through. But you've got a piece of, it's like a plastic material almost. And if you use it, what you're supposed to do is pop your paper on here, pop your die on top, and then pop that over so it sandwiches it. Pop it through your machine. What me and every other crafter that I know does is just open it out and use it as a piece of A4. Don't just use it once, use it a million times. But what it does, it creates a shim which compresses your die into the paper. I use mine all the time, regardless of whether I'm cutting something that's intricate or not. And the reason I use it all the time is those beveled edges that we get on our dies are even more beveled when we use Cut Tidy, because it's the compression, so they just look that bit sort of sweeter at the end. Pam saying, sorry, we have a poorly household. Love the pop-up. Lovely when someone opens the card, but what happens when it stands on the mantelpiece? Does it flop over? No, it still stands straight. It still stands up. Obviously, it's got more weight on the inside of it. It still stands perfectly. It's just you don't see the pop-up when it's standing up. You just see it when you're opening the actual card. So it still works absolutely fine, Pam. And I guess as well, it would depend how top heavy you make it. So if you put loads of stuff on there and it's at the top of the card, you know, you might want to check the weight of it there, but it shouldn't. It should be fine. So the frosted the frosted oak leaf is beautiful. Absolutely stunning. You've got a gradient that goes through from purple through to white at the top. You've got the extra leaves that sit here. So these two are larger than those two and they're sort of wider too. So you get the sort of fatter and the thinner leaves. And they're so pretty as we build up and we start to get this lovely bloom that goes forward. It's just so gorgeous. I think this is one of their best card shapes. It's the one I've enjoyed using so much. But like I say, Cut Tidy is going to help you. It's going to be your best friend. Then we've got that pop-up. Now I am going to show you. I'm going to cut it. I'm going to be brave. But it makes this sort of shape here. All of these elements that you can put your flowers on, you could put mice on, you could put so many things. Think of all the collections you've got from the past where you could use that, where you could stick stuff onto it and where you could put it through. So the mice that you've got, think of the mice from Crafty Little Things. You've got all the elements from the little animals from Rural Charm, all the different variants there as well. The magic fireplace, I think this way you could do stuff with that as well in front of the magic fireplace. Linda says, I always said I wouldn't buy Cut Tidy, but my goodness, what a difference it makes. It's definitely a game changer. It's funny, Linda, because, you know, I've been on this journey with so many things because I said the same about ProPrint. I thought ProPrint was a complete con. I genuinely did. I was just like, and then I used it and the difference was just extraordinary. And then the same with Cut Tidy. I didn't really understand Cut Tidy. And then now I just never cut without it because we always say if you're doing something intricate, use Cut Tidy. When I was at Create and Craft, the old Create and Craft in the prep room there was a cut and boss in there and we always had Cut Tidy on it. And so I got used to cutting all the time with it. And now I feel the difference when I don't. Moving on from there, we go to the shoes and handbags. These have all got specific names. I believe this is the anemone, and it is very, very beautiful. You've got that corner element I'm in love with the corner elements. They're so pretty. Beautiful handbags. And so obviously you've got the anemone sitting on the handbag and on the shoe as well. It all comes together. But point to note, with the corner elements, you do have that split die as well. I love split dies. I think they're just brilliant for giving me a different way of playing. I think they're really important. There's massive value in having them. So you've got that. Then you've got your mats and layers for your shoes and your handbag as well. That's the anemone. Then we move on and we've got that's not honeysuckle, it's the clematis. The clematis. Everyone says it differently. I know it's clematis, but that's kind of maybe Yorkshire. I don't know. But I know it's clematis. So there you go. And you've got your shoe and your handbag to match. Again, we have the split die. So we're going to be able to do over the edge cards. We might have a play with that today. I'll see how it goes. But they're so pretty. Imagine having two of those, one on either side, and then having your handbag on the centre of it on a DL card shape would just be beautiful. Really, really pretty. And then the final one of these, the trumpet one, is the
Winter honeysuckle.
Winter honeysuckle. Thank you, Miss Tal. I could actually lift the board because I think the name's on the back of it. The winter honeysuckle. I love honeysuckle. But that's probably my favourite corner shape. I love the trumpet element of it. I love the fact that it sort of spans out into the middle of your cards. It's beautiful. That bag, again, as I was saying, you can just cut down those pips. You can fill the bag as if everything's overflowing. And you've got the shoe there. We move on. And so you've got your facet spray here. Beautiful. Always, always important. Things like this are the things that give us the texture on the backgrounds of our cards. They make a difference, but they're beautiful in sprays of florals as well. Start looking at your other ones, see how many you've got and put them, you know, in different bouquets. You could really grow a floral bouquet with these. You've got your frosted berries. I love these. And they look like they're frosty. They always look like they're frosty. It's so cute. And then you've got your leaves as well. This is called a vignette, this artwork. You get your vignettes from the Carnation Crafts website, which is www.carnationcrafts.co.uk. There is a banner menu across the top. So you're going to go to where it says downloads at the top and then to free downloads. When you hit that, on the right hand side, there's a little box that says collections, and you can type in there which one you want. Obviously, this is Glamour of Winter. There's all your PDFs. You're going to choose the ones that are for this collection. Get your free backing papers. And also get your free inserts while you're in there, because you may as well, they're free. And they'd give you the free colourway as well today. So you get your normal colourway, and I believe you're getting the extra colourway as an addition to the normal. So they've been super generous with this collection. It's beautiful. It's so pretty. So you've got all of those elements that you need. And the last board that we've got is your crystallized wisp, which is stunning. Absolutely stunning. Think of all the ways you're going to be able to tuck that in, all of the different shapes that you're going to be able to create with it. I believe if you put two together, you could make a love heart shape with these, and it would be just glorious. I think it's gorgeous. So that is your crystallized wisp. That's Glamour of Winter. I know lots of you saw it yesterday. We had lots of demos yesterday. I did do an in-depth demo with the pop-up card yesterday. So if you want to see a card built with it, then absolutely do head over there. What I'm going to do first this morning is actually show you how to cut it onto a piece of card so you know what you're doing when you've got it, because some of you will have it today, I think. I think if you bought it yesterday or the day before, I think your postman might be delivering it this morning or this afternoon. So worth a look, right? So let's have a look at cutting it. Sorry, Miss Taz, if that's crackling in your ear. Right. I'll just take this. Let me get my bits and bobs. I have to put everything down here because otherwise there's not enough space on the desk. So apologies for the noise. Just 1 second. Right, my trusty trimmer. Let's cut some cardstock. What we're going to do, I'll just cut this down to an 8x8 for now. That's going to make me left-handed. Hold on, we're there. Right, if I cut this cardstock down to an 8x8, just for the sake of this piece, what I would do two, but obviously let's take it the easiest way. If I do that, let me make sure I've got this the right way. If I then score that in half. Now, one of the things that I will just quickly say, when you're using the pop-up card, don't just think of it as having to do a card in half. You could, if you really wanted to be clever with it. You know the flower dies where I was saying those corner dies have got the split die on it? If you were canning, let me just base out what I mean. I've got this piece of paper here and I've got this. Imagine this was just one piece of card that I had scored and put it over. So if I had that and that was over there, so that was just one piece of card, what I could do is do my split die over here. So that corner comes out, that floral comes out over this side of the card, which would be beautiful, right? And then I could put my pop-up at the bottom of the card so that when it opens with that over the edge card, it opens here. You would get this sprout coming out from the corner, which I think would be stunning. So don't think that all you've got to do is just do it down the middle of your card. There's other ways of playing with it that are just going to be amazing. And the great thing about having dies like this is the ability to be able to explore them and kind of work out what it is that you want to do. Right, let me just get rid of all my tools without destroying the set. That might not work. So I've got my score line. And I'm just going to burnish that down so I can see my center point. I can see my crease, and that's where this is going to sit. So what you're going to do is cut this main section from a different piece of cardstock. It's obviously not going to be cut out of your card. So I'll cut that first so you can see it. Hey up, Miss Taz. You went through the wall. I've got all of the bits. Hold on. Let me just make some space. I don't have the mostest room in here, so we're just going to go steady and do that cut tidy. Right, cut tidy is just a way of compressing it. Now, if you want to use it as a sandwich, so you would put those pieces inside, absolutely do so. If you're using it as an A4 piece like I am, I just put mine on the bottom and I cut into it. So I'm pushing that die into my cut tidy and it just gives me that compression. I will say if I was doing the frosted leaf, I would be inclined to do it as a sandwich and make sure I've got one on either side of it because it's going to really push out those pips. Also depends how thick your cardstock is going to be as well. If you're doing it on a super thick cardstock, obviously it's going to need more compression. Right, just let me put this through. I love that trusty little click that you get when they're going in. You're looking at my loving hands. They're on Elevate. It was when I was on Creating Craft and we cut using Elevate and then I just put them on my machine. So I have got my little piece here all cut out. So I've got the little score lines that go down the centre and I have got those elements that are sort of foldable, if you like, and the two little tabs on the end. So all we're doing is folding those down because they're going to make our little piece stand up. And you're going to score it in the middle because we want it to open on our card. So you're going to fold those up at that side, you see, and we're going to fold that inwards so that when it sits like that, and those tuck-ins, those little tabs, they're going to sit inside the piece we cut in the middle of the card. So where I put that there, and I've got that little seam in my card where I've done the score line, I'm going to seat this piece onto that seam. Now, it's a case of where do you want it to go? What you can do is take this piece. So my advice, cut this piece first and then work it out. Where do you want your pop-up to be? Because this is going to create tabs for, or little slots, should I say, for your tabs to sit on. So just sit and work it out. Where do you want your pop-up? Do you want it to be at the bottom of the card? Do you want it to be at the top of the card? Up to you which way you go with it, and it doesn't actually necessarily matter, but you do want to work that out before you do the cut. So my advice is always cut this first and then place it where you think you're going to need it and then go from that point. So my advice as well, when you're doing this, use some tape that you can, removable tape when you're putting this down so it never moves. I'm not going to because I'm just demoing it for the second just to show you what it does. But when you're at home, if you want it to stay perfectly central, that's what you're going to do just to keep it in place. Let that go through. My voice sounds all thick. Sorry, mister. Does it sound very odd? It sounds weird in my head. It's claggy, as we would say in Yorkshire. So this comes through just like that. And then all you're going to do, obviously, is remove that. Now, all it's done, can you see the embossed line that I've got? It's done that, and I've got two little slots. Where's my pokey? Can you see them? So I've got these little slots just there. That's going to allow this to sit straight in, just as you go through that little slot. And you can choose whether to glue those, and you can glue those at the back so you don't see any of those workings from the front. And you can also glue these bits. If you're going to glue these bits, my advice is use red liner tape just because it's the strongest, it's going to hold the fastest. And this one goes through this slot as well, she says. Hope if I maybe just go through it with my pokey first. And it just slots in, and there is your mechanism. So if I hold that at the back, you can see that when I fold my card, I've got my tab sitting there, my tab sitting there. Obviously you need to glue them because if I open it, I can, move that insert. So you have to do that, but then obviously that just pops out. It's so clever, right? Nick is, if nothing else, an absolute genius. He knows what he's doing. Those mechanisms, they help us create the most spectacular cards, and we want that journey. So that's how to use your pop-up mechanism. I'm not going to use it for the next demo because I'm going to do composition, so we're just going to play with the look of this collection. But I did want to show it from start to finish so you all know what you're doing when you get it home. My main piece of advice, place it first before you put the slots in, so and you know it's exactly where you want it to be. Once you've done that, it's just going to guide you, I guess. Right, Glamour of Winter, the most stunning frosty collection. It's beautiful. It is on the website. It's 221201, just in case anybody wants to go and have a look. What's wrong?
You didn't do it in the jingle.
I'm not feeling very jingly today, Miss Taz, and I don't know that anybody wants to hear me sing, I'll be totally honest.
221201.
I'm not convinced anybody wants to hear you sing either. I'm just saying. Poor Miss Taz. She can't complain because I made her bacon this morning. So she's got to be nice to me. Doesn't have to be nice to me. She's not looking at me nicely right now, and I'm not even looking at her, and I can see her out the corner of my eye, just so you know. Right, so I'm going to get some of this. I am using, just to prove my point, my 350 Perfect Smooth cardstock. I always use a 350. I'm not trying to sell you extras. I'm just explaining my process because that's what composition is. Whenever you make a card base, especially with Carnation, please, 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 please do use a sturdy cardstock. If you use something that is, you know, lightweight, when you start to add elements, especially foam tape, when you're adding the extra vignettes, you need it to stand up straight. And if you use something flimsy, it's just going to waft over because it's going to be front heavy. Any card is going to be front heavy, isn't it? It's where we put everything. It'll just fall over. So 350 is going to stop that happening. Make sure that your cards are secure and sorted so you don't have that as an issue. So let's have a look. I'm very wary that I might fall off this chair. This chair, it's very high, this chair. And all my stuff's down here. Right. Let's have a look at this. So I'm going to do, what size shall I do it, Taz? You choose. You can be the dictator.
Ooh.
What size do you want my card to be?
5 by 7.
A 5 by 7.
Or 7 by 5.
Okie doke. Let's do a 7 by 5. Oh, that's a small card, Mrs. Taz. 7 by 5. This is my whole process for demos and for card making. 7 by 5. That's got my 2 bits and bats there. So the first thing I ever do whenever I'm doing this, I cut my cardstock to the size that I want my card to be. I score the top, and I always score it at 1/2 inch. And I don't mind which side I score it at. So for instance, if I wanted it to be a landscape card rather than a portrait card, I'd still score it along the narrower edge, the smaller edge, because it doesn't matter you know, which way it is. It's just the way I do it. Doesn't mean it's right. It's just the way I do it. Score at 1/2 inch. And then we have the red liner. I look almost organised up here on the minute. Right. Just place that, put it down, get your skizzles. So that's my base process. That's always how I start my cards. It's the first thing I ever do. It's from that point, and weirdly, it makes a difference. If I'm looking at that, then I start to think already in my head, what do I want to have on the front of that card? And that starts to dictate which colour perfect papers I'm going to use. I don't know why my brain works that way, it just does. I am always attracted to one colour in the perfect papers more than the other. Historically, that's always been the case. And in this one, my eye goes straight to that really beautiful rose. It's such a gorgeous colour. I love the perfect papers in this selection. They're very, very rich, the colours. So just to go through look at these. Isn't that gorgeous? And they all go together, which is always useful to have. And I love, love that colour. Now, if I take those 3, they're the ones that I am at this very present second in time the most attracted to. So I'm going to take those and I'm going to start looking at how I want to piece them. I'll be totally honest with you, I like all 3 of those together. There's something very sort of fresh and modern about it. Now, had I had a bigger card base, I might have used all 3, but already I'm thinking, as I've got a smaller card base, if I start to build those mats and layers, there's probably going to be too many of them with the smaller, narrower points. So as we're doing composition, they're the decisions that we make as we're going along. I don't want it to be too narrow on the inside of it, so I need less of the cardstock. So, Miss Taz, would you like the sort of bluey purple shade, or would you like the rose shade? You choose. You want the rose shade?
It reminds me of mulled wine.
It reminds you of mulled wine. This is where you went yesterday, isn't it? And you were saying that she then got a craving for mulled wine. Right, so we'll go in for rose. And I'll just cut my mats and layers. So my initial card size was 5 by 7. So I'm going to go in, first of all, with the red. I would have the darker tone always to the back, but I know people craft differently. That's just me. So if that was 5 by 7, I'm going to need this to be, I'll take it down 1/4 of an inch for the first one. So 5 by 7, we'll do 6 3/4 by 4 3/4. Next one, we will do 5 1/2. No, have I just done that wrong?
It'll be 6 1/2.
Did I do it too narrow?
I think so.
No, I did it right. So we do it 6 1/2 by 4 1/2. Okay. Oh. 6 1/2 by 4 1/2. I don't know about you guys at home. I'm hoping somebody else is the same and it's not just me. Whenever I'm doing the number, because I'm not very good with the numbers, when I'm doing the numbers at home and I'm making these up, the amount of times I cut the wrong inch, it's never a problem if you've cut too much. It's very annoying when you cut too little. And I do that a lot. So I hope I'm not the only one. I hope you do it at home too as well. So I'm not on my own, but I hope you don't do it too often. Right, foam tape. Trusty, trusty foam tape. What have we got here? I've got a 2, I've got a 5, I've got a 1, and I've got a 3. I've got all the sizes. And that's, again, something I do when I'm creating the cards is I always sit with my foam tapes in front of me because I like to sit and think, okay, if I'm going with this card, where do I want it to be? What's going to be my end point? Do I want it to be a chunky card or do I want it to be a flat card? Now, I will make that decision based on what I'm putting on the top of it. And that's to say, let's say if I was going to make something a little more modern, I would go for the thicker foam tape. If I'm going to go with something classic and I'm going to put panels on there of, for instance, the backing papers, then I will always leave it flat. It's just the way my brain works. If I'm going super modern, that's when I start using my 5mm foam tape. So the decisions can be made as you go along, just depending what you want. Because I know I've got a smaller space here, I'm going to avoid the 5mm. It's too high for the small layers that I've got. So I'll go in for a smaller foam. So for my first panel, I think I'll probably go in at a 1mm. I think let's do a 1mm for this. So always the same process for me. I put one strip down the edge, then one in the middle, and one at the other edge. The middle always just being for support, as you know. Suzanne, she does the same as me too. It's so frustrating, isn't it? When you just cut and you just cut it wrong, you're like, no! One there as well. So that's the decision made. When we're doing composition, everything is a decision. And I like to kind of work my process. Look how pretty that is. I like to work my process. Now I've got my next layer here. So I could lay that flat and it would become essentially a picture frame for the card that I'm making. Or I can choose to raise it up and it becomes a platform, if you like. It stops being a picture frame, it starts being a platform, so it depends which one we're doing. So I'm going to take it to a 3mm on this, just so I can look at the difference in height. But I wouldn't go 5mm on something that's this small, it's too much for the eye. So we'll just pull down. Same again for the end one. Like so. Right, so that's going to be my main platform. Okay, so I've got all my bits and bats together. I'm just going to stick those backs together so that I know that they're done. We'll start working through with those mats and layers. And this bit you're all familiar with because I do it on each show. But when you see me doing all of this on the show, that's how I get to that point as far as mats and layers are concerned. And we all have a different process, don't we? A lot of us know beforehand what we're going to make. I will say majority wise, I don't know until I start. And a lot of the time I will change my mind anyway. So I can get halfway through a demo and know exactly where I'm going with it. And then I change what I was going to do anyway. Let's get these mats and layers stuck down. Out. Halfway to create your tabs. Pop out. Good Lord. Butt that up against your multimedia mat so that you know you've got your slip and slide. And we're just going to push and pull. Same again, this time with the higher foam tape. I love foam tape. It's one of my favourite things. It changes the way you craft. Pop that one on. I'll poke you out the way. About right, Taz? Huh? Right. So that is my base all ready. I am good to go. Everything is where I want it to be. I've got this here. Now I can make choices here. I can choose to have it open, obviously that way, or I can choose to have it open that way. That's a decision I've got to make before I stick anything down. Now that's something I never really talk about when we're talking through a demo, because you don't really need to know, you know, I've already made that plan as I'm going through, but it is something I think about while I'm planning the demo, because no matter which way I decide to go, up to that point, it doesn't matter. But at this stage, it now does, because obviously some of those pieces are going to be too tall. Some of them are going to be too small. It depends how I'm going to craft. So I have to think that stage through. Now, bear in mind, for an average launch, I will make somewhere between 20 to 30 demos. So it changes as I'm going through, and it's still never ceases to amaze me that I can make a different card every time with Carnation. And it's testament to how gorgeous the artwork is and how gorgeous, you know, all the pieces are, that you can do that. I can make 20, 30 demos and never panic that I'm going to run out of ideas, because that's what Carnation does for me. So I've got one trusty leaf left in my little box of tricks here. So I am just going to work out my placement. Now, just because that is taller than the card itself, it wouldn't put me off having it as a landscape card. I wouldn't automatically make that decision. A, I like things that hang over the top of cards. I think it adds more detail. But B, I can without it looking terrible, because we're using mirrored vignettes, which is where the image is on the back and the front. Now, obviously, that's not the best example because it's light at the top, so you can't really tell, but the purple is there. So if that was hanging over the edge of my card, I've still got the visual at the back of the card that's not sort of cheapening the whole look of it, which is why I love double vignettes so much. So it wouldn't put me off. However, it is, I would say, too tall for that specific sized card to be that way. So if I did want to do it, and I did still want to do it in landscape, I'd be inclined to just turn it. And already we are super pretty, right? Without doing anything, we're already looking gorgeous. And that's the point. There's something beautiful about, you know, this collection, but specifically that leaf is just stunning. If I want to make the leaf pop even more, if I was going to get super busy, what I could do is use one of the backings for it and place it over. Now, the reason I'm not going to do that on this specific card is because the colourway isn't working for me with the red and the lavender in that way. And that's one of the back-in papers. The back-in papers are designed to go with all of the perfect papers, and they do, they work beautifully. But in this circumstance, because I've chosen the cream instead of the lighter pink that goes with the rose, that would have blended perfectly. And you can see what I mean. I think I'm going to sneeze. If I sneeze, I apologise. If I place that instead, what are you laughing at, Miss Taz? Are you waiting for me to sneeze? I think it's gone away. So if I put that there, then obviously that works perfectly colour-wise and not blend. As soon as I take that away, it's not working anymore. First of all, I lose it anyway. The colour disappears. So it's kind of pointless having it. So it's, what impact are you looking for on your card? Because when I do that, there is a massive pop. When I use it there, there's a massive pop of colour. When I take away, you can see I start to lose the leaf. Put it in, massive pop of colour. If I put it on there, I lose the backing paper. So it's all colour theory. Colour theory is incredibly hard, but we know it when we see it. You might not know it name by name and in the technical terms, but you know it when you see it. So it's just about those decisions. Now, I really love that being there, and I love it just being on that little angle. I think it's super pretty, and I know that I can play with that in a ton of different ways. However, what I can also do is turn it so it is, just making sure I've got the tape at the right side. I can have it that way. And we've cut the card, ironically, perfect size. So that's how tall the leaf is, folks. It's 6.5 inches. So I can put it there, and it is absolutely perfect. Now, what you can do with this leaf is, instead of thinking of it as a leaf, is think of it as a tree. Because it does have a look of a tree with it, with the stem. If I wanted to, I'm not going to do it as a tree, but if I wanted to, can you see where I've got almost branches coming here? And they leaf off at the side. What you can do is cut away those panels there, so you get a tree from this, and you would cut along those branches and it becomes a tree, which I think is so beautiful. Isn't it clever? So instead of it now just being a leaf, we now have a full tree. I would be inclined to cut up to that point where they come and just cut away the little edge pieces. You've got the most beautiful tree. And I think there's mad, mad, mad awesomeness about that. Just clever. That's Carnation to a T. A million ways to play. Well, however, we want to look at the whole of this collection, and I'm going to try and bring in as many elements as I can and take away as many elements as I can as I'm playing, so you can see as much of it coming together. And we're just going to play at what I think looks good, what I don't think looks good, and we'll sort. So I keep talking to you first of all about this specific handbag, and it's beautiful. Now see where I've cut the pip? Oh, it's like a little chompy mouth. Where I've cut that pip, that means I've now got all of the freedom in the world to start building a scene. So let's take this off. I can start popping in lots of beautiful little elements to come through and build to create that little it's so cute. To create that little handbag, pop a couple of berries in there. Now, if I take that, take my base, if I raised that up on foam tape, popped it there, like so, and put a sentiment on it, it's gorgeous. It's already gorgeous. However, if I add some texture to my background, start bringing in just a little bit of textural notes, it starts to add a little bit more interest. So instead of it just being very plain, it adds more interest. On top of that, I am then going to say, if I add in a panel, and it's not as wide as the rest, it's just a panel of white. Add in that texture onto my panel. Now the handbag is popping. The colour pops. And the reason the colour pops obviously is because we're doing it in white, and white always works. So you've got that sort of element to it. So it's how we build in those ways. Now, if I was doing that, I would be very much inclined to do a stamped sentiment straight onto the white card. The other thing I'll say is, in this circumstance, I wouldn't use a panel down the centre of this. And the reason I can look at that visually and tell you straight away that my panel wouldn't work. It's pretty. And it is pretty, but that's too busy at the bottom. There's too much going on. So if I was doing this, I would want to extend that and have it as an actual matten layer, just to stop it being so busy. And I think what I'll do, hold on. What did we get to, Taz? 6.5? If that was 6.5, let's take another piece down and take it to 6.5. Shall we be brave and do a 1/2 inch? Where did I put my cardstock, Taz? Ugh. Did I put it down here? Did I? No, I put it here. Right, if that was 6.5, let's take the next one down to 6. Should we be brave, Miss Taz? Go down a 1/2 inch instead of a 1/4, do you think? You want me to do a 1/4? Are you not feeling brave this morning? We got to 4.5, didn't we? It was 6.5 by 4.5. So if I go down to 6.25, do you feel very powerful that I'm letting you call all the shots?
Nice to be like vicarious and crafting.
Well, I think the whole point of composition is if I let you make the decisions, then you know that I've just got to sort of do it on the hoof, don't I? I know. So if I place that on, look how pretty that is. Those colours are so stunning together, right? There's something, again, it's the same as that white handbag and the red handbag where there's something vaguely oriental about it. It's the colourway. It's so pretty. It reminds me of like the Chinese dragons and, you know, all of that playway. Let's do this. Let's get some extra layers going. I've got an awful lot going on over here, Miss Taz. It's very busy. Let's raise some stuff up. This is exactly how I work when I'm doing the demos. This is literally it, where I sit there and I go, what does this look like? Will it be better with a different coloured panel on underneath it? How many panels do I want? What different look am I making? Sometimes we could put on 6 layers and it will look extraordinary, and other times we'll put on 2 layers and it will look too much. So it's just playing and finding your comfort zone. But I do like to call my tone with colours. It's just the way I see. We all see differently. Am I about right, Miss Taz?
Yeah.
There? Right. So now we've got our panel way. Now, the white handbag that we were playing with a second ago is stunning, right? Stunning. However, then when I take that away and I pull in the red handbag with those colours behind it is extraordinary. If I was using that handbag there, I would want it on phone tape. I would want to raise it. The reason being is that the handle is free and it will give the, you can see the shadow that is sitting there. You can see how that raises. So you've got all of that element there. Beautiful, beautiful playways. Doesn't mean we can't tuck stuff in, because where that sits there, what we can do is tuck it behind that little ring and play with it that way, so it looks like it's coming out. So I'm going to have a play with all of those aspects to it, but I want to look at the shoes, I want to look at the leaf, I want to look at the different elements. So we're going to do all of that, all of those things. So Miss Taz,
yeah.
What is on? Oh, what's on the? Can we look at deal of the day? And while you're doing that, can I have a drink? Are you able to go to deal of the day, or is that too tricky?
No,
in which case, I'm just going to drink anyway.
So okay, yeah.
Can you? I need a drink. I need a drink. Digi-stamps. What's those, Miss Taz? We like those. That's for this collection.
Yeah, in the digital marketplace.
Digi-stamps. So they're printable stamps. That's going to change everything. We loved it. Right, I'm going to have the digital stamps printed tomorrow, ready for you to have a look at, and we'll play with them. Miss Taz, we've got Sharon here tomorrow, so Sharon's going to be showing you different ways as well. I like that. How much were they, Taz?
$4.99.
Can we see them? Can we see them? Can we see them? So it's got everything that this collection's got on it. Near enough half price. I love those. That leaf's going to be incredible, right? So you've got digital stamps. Okay, guys. Digital stamps. We like it. We like it. We like it. Right. Let's have a look-ski here at what we've got. The little corner flower, which I love, and I love them so much. They're so beautiful, and watch how they pop when you just look at that. Now I'll be totally honest, again, use one of those digi stamps, but a stamp just on your card here. Super beautiful, really gorgeous, right? You've got all of that element where everything is now shining upright. It's so pretty. These would be amazing if you put them on foam tape, raise them right up and put some tiny lights behind them, so you'd have that glow coming from the flowers upwards. Super pretty for Christmas cards, and especially if you think of it sitting on a mantelpiece with all the Christmas tree around. Gorgeous. So I love that. I think I'm going to stay with that. Oh, am I thinking that? Oh, that's pretty. I love that leaf so much. I'm so smitten by that leaf. Now, the crystallized wisp. If I was to use the crystallized wisp here, I would be inclined not to use it with the leaf, just because it's just going to disappear, because they're both holy, if that makes sense. So if I remove the leaf and I start to bring those wisps, I love them so much. If I bring those wisps in and almost corner that out. Actually, let's corner that out. Very pretty. I'm going to turn that one round. Look at that. That's like ocean spray. That reminds me of waves crashing. That's stunning. Right, let's just leave that there for a minute. I'm just going to play. I love playing. I love it when we do composition. I want to bring in a shoe. Let's have a look. Now, the shoes. If I'm comping and I'm comping this way, the shoes are tall. So I would want to make sure that my card shape was this way, or if it was the other way, okay, if I'm putting the shoe here, I would put it in the center, right? It would be my showstopper, obviously, okay, because it is a showstopper, right? So I've got it there and it is a showstopper. However, if I turn the card, we'll do it this way just for ease of use, this way, I wouldn't want it tucked behind. I would want it to be its own showstopper. Now, the problem with that is we don't get the same grounding device. When we have it the other way, we have it tucked in, we have that grounding device. We don't get the same grounding device. It looks slightly like it's on its own, like we've lost it after a kebab on a nightclub. So it gets lost somehow. So what we need to start doing is grounding it. And the way I would do that is to turn the shoe around and have it in its own corner. Or alternatively, you could pull that forward, let's do it that way, and maybe tuck it, but tuck it this way and tuck it slightly behind. But you lose the heel, and the heel has got so much. Plus, because you've got the flower on the shoe, you kind of lose it between the two flowers. You're not getting its true value. So for me, with this shoe specifically, I would definitely want it to be that way round. I would want my shoe as my showstopper, and I would just very slightly tuck it one way or another. I'd go that way. Do you see the difference? Do you see how that makes it awkward at the other side? When I turn it and angle it that way, it somehow feels awkward. There is a way of rectifying it. If you have it the other way around and you've got it seated so it's sort of on its own, the best way to ground it is to add another shoe. You'd have two, one just overlapping the other, and then it will make sense of it visually. So if you have two, we understand two shoes. It's just, you know, we're conditioned to understand two shoes. So it would make sense. So there are always ways around everything. And some of them are simple techniques that we can do to just change the balance of it. And that works. This collection is really vibrant. It's really beautiful and it's really vibrant. So these tones are cooling them down for us. You've got those beautiful wisps. So where you're looking, if you look at that, where you've got on your screen there, it's the artwork isn't obviously the same colour as the colour that you're getting, and they're much more muted tones, but you can see on the bottom shelf where you've got your winter clematis, your winter honeysuckle and your anemone, and you've got those sitting there, you know that they're the showstoppers, and you know that the leaf is the showstopper. You can visually see that just by looking at those dies all together. They're your big points. And so they're the ones that probably you're going to use in the center of your card without even thinking about it. And you know it just by looking at that. Oh, thank you, Taz. 221201, by the way, for your Glamour of Winter collection. Well, I may as well say it while I'm there, Mr. House. So you can see all of those elements, can't you? You can see how that comes in. So if I just then very, very quickly, hold on, I'm going to fall off my chair and I don't want to bring the cards that I did yesterday. Let's have a look. If I bring this in, I'm just using an example. Thank you, Janine. You can see here, do you want it on the overhead, Miss Taz? She's pointing furiously at the overhead camera. If I bring this here, it's this that's the showstopper. And it's always looking at which element am I drawn to when I look at the card. Now, then ask yourself the question, why are you drawn to that? Why is that the piece that's bringing your eye down? And it's because it's bright red. It's an immediate look at the handbag. You will then go on to appreciate the flower. You'll go on to read the stamp. Do you or do you not? How do I phrase it? You don't see it. When you look at that card, that's not the piece that you focused on. You didn't see it. If it was missing, it would be missing still. That's the value of those pieces. And I try and explain it, and I find it really difficult to explain what I mean because I'm not the best person with words. When we have those textural pieces that sit on a card, so the crystallized wisp and the facet spray, when we've got those, they make such an extraordinary difference to the finish of your card. But nobody really sees them, and it's weird. We know as crafters why we're using them. They're beautiful, and of course, you know, the person receiving the card notices it. But if we go back to this, of all the things that you've got on here, that's not the thing that you noticed when you first looked at it. However, it does add to the card. In the same way I can say that I didn't really notice the filigree underneath. I know it's there, and visually, if it was without it, that would be a totally different card. It's just the way our eyes focus. When I pull this forward, obviously it's slightly awkward because you're there. There you go. So if I pull that forward, Miss Taz, let me ask you, what's the first thing you notice when you look at that?
I see the berries first.
You saw the berries first.
Yeah.
Do you know what I saw first? The pop-up.
Well,
but it's true, right? I was asking you a trick question, really, but you noticed the berries, yeah? And that's the first thing that you're noticing. What haven't you noticed? Well, probably the purple leaves. They're the structure of it. That's what's holding it. But the thing that you're noticing are the showstoppers. So the showstopper in this is your florals and your berries and your sprays. But the thing we don't notice is the purple. Now, under other circumstances, those purple leaves would be the first thing that you do notice. So it's always about structure. It's about where you're placing. Whenever we look at Carnation and we're looking at things like the facet spray and the crystallized wisp, they're the ones we're going to use again and again and again. Because are they the showstopper? No. Are they probably the most important pieces? Yes. Because they're the visual. So that's why. So when we've got the crystallized wisp that's sitting here creating the L structure on my card, and I've got the beauty of that, I know I can play with all the techniques from it. So now I can start using that as a base to add in different leaves just to create a little hugging form around that shoe. I can bring in elements. I can also use that shoe to start pulling out berries and bringing out more colour, just to add that pop of extra umph. So on this, the first thing that I notice, weirdly, is not the berries or the shoes, but actually the corner flower. It's all about colour. It's all about what we're doing. If I get rid of the wisps, the first thing I'll notice is the shoe. But because I've elongated it with those wisps, the first thing I notice is the flower, because it's the biggest element, it's the biggest focal point, and it becomes my showstopper. So when I'm making the card composition-wise, which is obviously why we're here today to look at composition, when I'm doing that, the first thing that I'm going to look at is go, okay, if I want the shoe to be my showstopper, I'm going to have to get rid of the wisps, or I'm going to have to get rid of the corner flower. If I want it to be the showstopper, what I can do is take it and put it on top. What I can do is take it and put it on foam tape and raise it, or if I want to, I could put it there. If I was going to put the shoe in the centre, what I would want to do then is use the concentric ovals, and I would make an oval to go round that, and I would sit the shoe inside the oval. It's all about how we play. It's all about what we're using. But those wisps, the facet sprays and the wisps, they're the ones that are going to be your best friend through all of your card making journeys, because they're the ones that are going to give you the umph. So I'm just going to pop my shoe back there. So from this point, if I was going to do it, I would likely leave, if I was going to use the shoe, I would likely leave it at that point. Put a stamp on, make sure that's on foam tape and raise it. I wouldn't have it quite there, but there you go. I would have it somewhere along that point, grounding it out, little bit of heel showing, or I'd raise it on foam tape, maybe a sentiment or a couple of gems in the corner, and I would walk away, because to me it's perfect. If I start adding too much to it, I'm going to lose the shoe. I don't want to lose the shoe. It's my showstopper. So I just wanted to sort of show you the importance of the wisps, and the facet sprays, because they make such a difference. Now, because I've got the white of this and the purple of this, the likelihood is if I was going to be using the shoes and the handbags, I would go for the ones that are in the purple, because I've got that spray in the centre. But that's because my brain wants to match everything. If I go the other way and instead tone it down and take in the white handbag, which is so pretty, look at that. Now we're show stopping, but I kind of feel like I'm losing the bag because it's white on white, and I would have to raise it. It would have to go on foam tape. So if I was to take that away then, and I was to go in with the red, now I'm happy. Now I've created my showstopper. So as much as this process might seem odd to you, weird to you, this is the process I go through when I'm creating demos. What am I going to be able to do that causes the impact for everybody to be able to look at the collection as a whole and go, whoa, that's incredible. That's what, the whole of this is about, is being able to say to you, this is different ways you can play, and this is the different things you can do with it. Because with Carnation, it's never a one-trick pony. There's always a ton of ways that we can play. Adding in extra leaves so we create those blooms. L. Creating that L. So to me now, the handbag is a shop window. We've created that. It's got lights glowing down on it. That handbag is going up for £10,000 in a shop window. Everybody's standing around looking in the shop window because we just made a thing of the bag. And that's the point. Choose your showstopper. Always choose your showstopper. What on your card is going to be your focus? How are you going to make it more of a focus? How are you going to draw the eye to it? Because as soon as we start doing that with composition, that's when we're able to take it to the next level. If you know which piece is your show-off piece on the front of your card, you've got to use your other pieces as your support mechanisms to confirm what you've just done with it. So like I say, that is my showstopper. So I'm going to use the wisps, and I'm going to use those leaves to support the choice I made. They're going to help me, but they're not going to detract from it. So if then I want to make a mistake purposefully from that and lose that bag. So if I just show you composition wise where I could make a mistake, where I could lose the value of what I've done, is for instance by popping in the big leaf behind. I'm going to ruin every focus I just made. Okay, because now my eye's drawing upwards and I'm losing the bag. As it's not that the card looks bad, it's that the choice I made to make the bag the showstopper has disappeared, and so the value of the bag has disappeared because my focus is now on that leaf, because that leaf's extraordinary, isn't it? So it's going to just change the balance of things, change how it works. Doesn't mean I can't use the leaf. It means I would need to put the leaf somewhere else. It would have to become another supporting character. So in order to do that, for instance, I can pull this down. I could put the leaf over at the side, just under my wisps, for instance. I'm just pushing around. My bag still remains my focal point. I've only moved it. All I've done is move it. But if I just pop that so it's tucked in, my bag's still my focal point. It's still my showstopper. The leaf hasn't stolen it, but if in the middle behind it, the leaf steals the whole show. So those choices are the things that I do when I'm doing composition, and it's why we see the value in what Carnation gives us. Soon as I put those berries there, I lose the bag. The colour's stealing the colour. So it looks visually to me, I'm starting to love that. Like to me, it looks like just this beautiful cacophony of colour and gloriousness, but I have lost my showstopper. So taking that away, I can get it back. So those little visuals that make those key differences, I think are just glorious with Carnation. And it's really difficult because when I'm trying to talk to people about Carnation and I'm saying, you know, why they're so different from all the other companies, why, if I was to go and use another company's dyes and make something, you know, with them, I'd still go through the same process. My problem being is sometimes with it, I can't get the same showstopper effect because I am so dependent on Nick's artwork being so amazing every time. Now, the reason that's not a problem is because it never ever drops, does it? You know, we always know it's going to be extraordinary. He does it every time. So you get used to that quality. Very hard then to lower that down when you're trying to use something else. And I'm not disparaging anybody else's stuff. I'm not. But when you've got artwork that's done in-house by an artist, and that's what he is, makes life easier. I can make a showstopper because Nick's artwork allows me to do that. But his artwork doesn't dominate my card. My composition dominates my card. Your composition dominates your cards. Go and have a look in the Carnation Crafters group on Facebook, the inspiration that you guys make. Because whether I listen to some of your comments and you're like, I don't know if it's good enough. I've made this. I don't know if is it lacking something? The minute you ask the question, is my card lacking something? First of all, it sounds to me like you already know the answer. Doesn't mean it is lacking something. It means you think in your head it is, in which case you need to add something. But the other side to that is, if you don't ask the question, do an experiment. Put a card into the Carnation Crafters group and put on it a title, I'm so proud of this. Then put another card in and put, is this lacking something? And look at the comments. If you put, I'm so proud of this, you'll get a ton of likes on it and you'll get a ton of people going, that's gorgeous. If you put the question, is this lacking something? You'll get a ton of comments going, no, I think it's okay. Or maybe if you just put a sentiment somewhere, what you're doing is trying to tell people, pull my card to pieces. So always be proud of what you do. Always be proud. If you sit there and you're going to write the question, is this lacking something? It means you kind of already decided in your head it is. So just play. Add some extra bits. Often it's just a corner element that you need, or it's something to do with the colour needing tweaking, or it could just be adding in a facet spray. Because where we have a blank space, if I've got a piece of white sitting here, I've got a very blank white card. The minute I add in a textural piece, I've changed the look of what I've got. So if I put 2 leaves in, put some berries on top. Pretty as a picture. Let me just get rid of what's underneath. Beautiful, right? Add in a textural piece, changes it. Completely changes it. Those textural pieces that Nick provides are insanely useful, but they are visually massively impacting. And I think when you start playing with Carnation and you start playing with those pieces, especially when we're doing stuff like this where you've got those elements that you're building a bloom and you're building a building, and you start playing with those pieces, that's when you suddenly go, I love Carnation because of things like this. Every time Carnation bring a die out, and I don't need to say all this, you know, I'm here anyway. Every time they bring a set of dies out, I always know that my biggest ones are going to be the little pieces that I never see when I'm first looking through the collection. Because I'm going to look at those shoes, I'm going to look at those handbags, and I'm straight away thinking, they're my showstoppers. Look at this, look at what I'm going to be able to do with these. Look at that big leaf, it's beautiful. It's always those ones that I depend on. They're the ones I'm going to cut 100 times because I'm going to keep using them in my cards all the time. Not even going to think about it most of the time. They're my support system. They're the supporters. They're the supporting actors in a play. They're the extras that you see on Coronation Street. You'd notice if they weren't there, but you don't notice them when you're watching it because you're watching the main characters, and that's your card, isn't it? We're looking for those main characters. So that's kind of composition-wise how that will help. But this whole collection, what I do want to just very quickly do is just show you what I meant by that big leaf, first of all, just for that tree, just so you can see it. So where we're talking about this, I love this so much. I'm so in love with that. I don't know if you guys at home can actually see it. Can you visually see the tree? Can you see the branches? And it's beautiful. It's absolutely beautiful. I can see the tree running straight through. It's the first thing I saw when I saw this leaf, because I love this leaf so much. And the first thing I saw was a Christmas, you know, a frozen tree inside the leaf. And for me, that means I've got more than one way of playing with it. So if I just snip through to that line and I start to pull through, I'll leave some aspects through. I would neaten it up. Obviously I'm just doing this off the cuff. You'll sit and spend more time. I just wanted to show you what I can see. It's a winter's tree. Can you see it? Is it just me? Can you see it, Taz? Isn't it beautiful? It'll make a lovely tree. It's important. It's important. I get to play with it differently. Now it's a tree. Now I get to do other stuff with it because I've got a tree and I can play with that tree and I can put things at the bottom of that tree. I can change it. So I don't just need to use it as a leaf. I can change it up. I can add other elements in. I can add different berries. I can add the leaves. So it's just pretty. Carnation are clever. They've always been clever. They always provide us with amazing pieces. They're a joy to use. We all know that. Why is this collection so different from anything Carnation has brought out before? We've had shoes and handbags from Carnation before, right? So why is this one different? You know, what are we getting from this? Well, with this one, we get those winter tones for a start, but the artwork is completely different. So the reason that's important when we're building up our collection of things like shoes and handbags is over a period of time while you're creating cards with those aspects, especially if you sell. If you sell cards, that's when these become your most valuable pieces, because now you've got a full collection of shoes and handbags and it'll continue to grow. So every time they bring out a new set for us, we can add those to the collection that we've got in order so that we can always pick and choose the appropriate one for the card that we're making. And that's why these are so stunning and so important. Carnation are never ever going to lead us off kilter. I love that about them because I'm somebody who very much feels like if you're spending your money, you need to get something from it. I'm a Yorkshire girl, it's what we do. So that's why I think the value in Carnation is always there, and I wouldn't demonstrate for them if I didn't think it was there. Their collections that they bring are some of the most powerful artwork I've seen within the craft industry as far as dies are concerned. How often do you see it? You don't. But it's not just that. Then you get the quality of the dies, you get it in its own packaging, it's all the things. But it's the playway. It's the playway. It's always going to be it with me. As far as this collection is concerned, you've got something so extraordinarily powerful in this, and you're going to be able to create some of the most beautiful cards that you've, made in your crafting journey. Add in some of your other facets. Pull in that pop-up element that you've got. Imagine this. Well, you've got your showstopper on the front. Let me just pull it slightly back because I've destroyed it. Destroyed it, Miss Taz. Get that corner element in. I love that so much. Isn't that just beautiful? Get my corner element back. Look at that. Put my little handbag in. Isn't that just stunning? Now, imagine that, and then imagine being able to open it and have a pop-up. How often do you see things like that on the market? How often would you be able to walk into even a local high street store and buy something like that? You can't. That's why Carnation are so different. That's why they're a joy to play with. This particular collection, I fell in love with. I fell in love with the colours. I fell in love with all of the extra pieces that you get. So that frosted oak leaf card shape is one of my favourite card shapes they've ever done. It's absolutely stunning. I love all of the wisps. I love the facet spray hugely. They're the ones that give me the power when I'm crafting. But one of the other things that we haven't really talked about today, and we should sort of just have a mention of because I'm in love with them. You know I love my nesteds. whenever we get nested dies, we are going to be able to craft for years with them. Years with them. You will with any of Carnations anyway, because they're classic and they're timeless. But nested dies are the ones we're going to use for card bases, and we're going to use them also for elements within our card making. And the concentric ones are beautiful. We get the 2 different shapes, which means we can play in different ways with them. Also, a metal point of view, that's what they look like. So it looks like an eye. It's like a magic eye, Miss Taz. The one inside is like a plate, if you like, and it's got little, it's like a tag, essentially. That one is a tag. So you can do your sentiments on there. You could just stamp straight onto it. Value-wise, you're always going to get a huge amount out of nested dies. I flick through, the nested dies are the ones that I keep on my desk, or they're right next to my desk. I've got a hanging thing that's got hooks on it, and I keep all my nested dies next to me because they're the ones I use all the time. I'm always getting out my nested dies, and I go through the different ones that I've got for Carnation. So I always get a bit giddy when they bring out a new set, because I like to have choice when I'm making stuff, and I like to mix and match them as well. So you've got the concentric ovals. They're on the website. Oh, thank you, Taz. 221210. They're on the website. Have a look at them and see what you think, because they are gorgeous, absolutely stunning, you know. I hope this has helped somebody. I hope this is, you know, useful to you all. I love doing the composition shows because I think it shows you the value of what you're getting, how to make different ideas, how to do different things, and how we kind of visualize the set that we've got at that moment in time. Glamour of Winter, it is stunning. Please, 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 if you are buying the Glamour of Winter today, do use that code GOWCC10. It's going to give you 10% across the whole of this collection, and you're going to get that discount. I don't know how much that'll actually make it with that. Do we know, Taz? It'll take off 10% is going to be £12.49 off that total price, surely.
It'll be
That's
£112.49.
£112.49. So it is going to take quite a chunk off for you for this one. So all of the things, and if you're anything like me, you'll be able to hide away at Christmas doing your crafting work, which we love. Yes, Miss Taz.
If they use ClearPay, it's £28.12.
ClearPay, £28.12, Miss Taz is saying.
And if you use PayPal, it's £37.50.
And if you use PayPal, it's £37.50. So hope that gives you all the information you need. It's on their website, 221201. The Carnation Crafts website is www.carnationcrafts.co.uk. If any of you have got the energy and the time to just nip to YouTube, hit the subscribe button and hit that. There's a little bell that's next to the subscribe button, and that little bell is an alert. It just tells you when we're going live, because there are times, and there will be times in the future, where we're going to be putting demonstrations and stuff like that, little tutorials on certain things, and we won't necessarily do a big advertisement about that. So if you don't want to miss anything from Carnation, please do head to the YouTube channel. Make sure you press that bell. It'll just alert you and say that we're live. It's not going to bother you in the middle of the night. We're never going to go live in the middle of the night. We really are not doing that. I am not. No, Miss Taz. So it's not going to wake you up at any given point, but it'll just say Carnation is live, and it means you can join in and see what we've done, but you can always go later and see it if you can't get to it at that point. There's a lot of words. Right, I am going to go to sleep for a little while because my little head is falling to pieces, and I will see you all tomorrow with the gorgeous Sharon Curtis, and we'll be here at 10 a.m. Thank you, Miss Taz. A huge thank you to Miss Taz, because she does work tirelessly for us, and we'll speak to you all soon. Take care till then. Bye.